Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Rick from Only Football bringing you another episode of Only Football, brought to you by Star 6 Media. Kyle and I are going over the divisional round weekend and what a weekend it was. Some say the best weekend in NFL playoff football. So we'll recap that. We're also going to go over our rankings of the remaining playoff teams, as well as talk about some head coaching vacancies. Let's get it.
No, did it pop? That was anticlimactic. I thought it was about to pop.
No, what? It did.
Oh, man.
Maybe it did. I got some Topo Chico hard seltzer, baby. Let's go.
I've actually had that. It is not bad.
It's not pretty good. I like it. I
was looking at our intro video, and fun fact, none of those people are in the Final Four, besides Patrick Mahomes. I think Mahomes is in there.
That's right. That's right.
So let's talk about it. What does it all mean? We're gonna go in the order of the way the games were played. Mm-hmm. So, Rick, man, I'm just gonna put this out there, okay?
Oh God,
I'm not gonna. Oh, I was right. I'm not gonna do none of that.
You better not.
We're gonna do is talk about the games, but there were some very surprising things that happened.
Oh yeah,
and I thought the games were all going to be really close. That was the vibe I was getting going into this week. Because there's going to be a lot of close football games. And there was one close football game. There was two, actually. But two blowouts, which is 50% of the games.
Yeah, and that's why, like, if I'm being honest, when people – I think you had said it last episode when you were like, this is usually people, say that this is the best – weekend of the NFL playoffs, and I'm usually like, I don't know, and because for me it's the conference championships, which is the weekend coming up, but most of the times it is. There are a lot of close games, like you said, but this time it was like there was like two close games, but not really. You know what I mean? Like one of them was the score was really close, and that one it just didn't feel like it was really close, but the score says it was close. But I agree, man. It didn't feel as exciting as I thought it would be, but still some good games.
Definitely. And we're going to start with the Jaguars and the Chiefs.
I was right. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa.
Off the top rope.
I want to say this, and I know you're going to disagree, but I want to say I wasn't wrong about this game. And the feeling that I had going into this game was that the Chiefs are a very beatable team. And I caught a lot of backlash for saying that, especially with all this stuff behind me.
True.
And the point that I was always trying to make was that 29th in like third down, 31st in red zone defense, 32nd in passing yards allowed. I just think that there are more complete, better teams out there. And when I see defensive stats that are that bad, right? Let's just call it what it is. It's bad. It makes me believe that a team is beatable, even if it hasn't happened. And this was another one of those matchups that there was a touchdown that was dropped. Lawrence put it on the money. I mean, it literally hit him in the hands and stride. He holds that ball in. That's a touchdown. And then you had another touchdown when they were on the 2-yard line, and he just fumbled the ball right there in the goal line. And then it just kind of felt like it all fell apart right there. But I didn't leave this game feeling like the Chiefs won this game. They didn't do anything wrong, but I'm definitely leaving this game feeling like the Jaguars lost this game. What are your feelings about that?
So, you start off mentioning the defense, right? For sure. The defense did not look good. But the thing is, they looked good when it counted. They gave up 350 yards of offense to this Jags team. Not good,
They're so
right? Not
bad.
good at all.
Yeah.
But what happened in the fourth quarter? They came away with a fumble and they came away with an interception in the clutch.
But that wasn't even a forced fumble. What happened was he caught the ball, and when he went to tuck it, he actually fumbled that ball without even being touched by a Chief. So it was.
But who came up with the ball?
Well, there were Chiefs there to recover the ball.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, right? Like it's not. Sure, we're not going to credit that one to the defense, but we got to give them credit in the fact that they recovered it and were able to stop a drive from the Jags in that sense. They were able to get to the ball. They recovered the football, drive over. There's really, it's black and white, right? They either recovered it or they didn't recover it. If they didn't fumble it, we might be talking about a whole different outcome here with the Jags possibly winning this game. But no, I agree. The defense for the Chiefs looked very beatable. But they did come up clutch, like I said, in the fourth quarter with those 2 turnovers. What really helped the Chiefs kind of cement this win too was the long drives, the possession time. They had 10 minutes more possession time than the Jags. And that was with Mahomes being out most of the second quarter with an ankle sprain. Chad Henne, who's like 80 years old, came in, led a 98-yard touchdown drive. Like when you look at it, when you look at the score 27-20, that was an important drive, and that's coming from the second stringer who's hasn't started a game in who knows how long, right? Like or at least a game that mattered in who knows how long, let alone be subbed in for a playoff game. Like this was an important drive, and they started at their own 2, and he was able to get them down to score. Now I will say Pacheco did have like 40 yards on that drive rushing. So
yeah, he broke a couple.
Yeah, so he was a big part of that. But the offense in general for the Chiefs, Kelsey with 2 touchdowns. I forgot who else scored. But this was a big game for the offense. The defense came in at the clutch time, but the Jags, I think Trevor Lawrence said it best himself. I don't look at this as the end, but more of the beginning of something. And that's what it is, man. Like I got to give all the credit to the Jags. They came into Arrowhead, put up 20 points against the Chiefs, fumbled the ball, lost it. And that was kind of it after that. Again, the possession time was huge for the Chiefs, but only one team gets to go into their 5th straight AFC championship, and that's the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I think as much as it sucks to lose in a way where you're like, man, like we beat ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We left 2 touchdowns on the board. I think that's better than the alternative. And what I mean is the way the Bills lost last year was like, we literally played the best version of ourselves that we could ever be, and we still lost. Now, how do you go back to the drawing board in that scenario? Right? It's a lot tougher than the Jags situation, because right now I think they can go into the offseason and be like, hey, if we clean up some of this stuff, not only can we be back next year, but I like our chances against anybody that we play, especially like Trevor's going to make another big leap. This is kind of the way it happened. Even if you look back all the way to Manning, he had the most picks of any rookie. And then he has this kind of jump where he's the franchise guy. And then it's that next year where it's like, okay, Peyton Manning. The Peyton Manning that we know and love, really, like, it was his 3rd year that we were like, okay, this dude's going to be a really good player, Hall of Famer. Like, and I think that there's a lot to grow and build from. I thought Trevor Lawrence had his team in a position to win the game. It was just, man, it was hard to watch. I don't know why I have it playing on replay right now, the exact drop, but
oh no,
it's like, it's such a great ball. And when Lawrence released that ball, his receiver wasn't even open yet. It was just such an amazing play. And sometimes it's just 1 or 2 plays like that where a quarterback is going to be special and around for a while. And I definitely agree with what he said at the end of the game. He said he is half, proud of what the team was able to accomplish this year. Nobody really gave
Mm,
Jacksonville a chance, and then half disappointed in that it's all over. And I I know the further you get into the playoffs, the more it hurts
mhm,
to get sent home. So, but yeah, for the Chiefs, I think they are they're gonna have they're gonna have their hands full next week because the Chiefs are not gonna play. Let's see, this was their first game of the postseason, so they didn't
yep.
have to play anyone last year or last week. But I'll say their next game is probably going to be very a lot more challenging than this matchup was. And the one thing they have going for them is that it's going to be at home. But that's pretty much all I got for this game. Um, the Chiefs able to get the win, and that's all
Mhm,
that really matters when it's all said and done. And now the Chiefs at home, one game away from going to the Super Bowl. So
yep.
no matter how bad their defense is playing, if you only need one game to get in the Super Bowl, anything's possible. I don't care who's in that game. There's just something special about being one game away from the Super Bowl
Oh, yeah.
where everybody has a chance that's in
Yeah.
the game, especially the team with the greatest quarterback in the world. So, um,
And
our
that's
next,
and
yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
and real quick, last thing is we gotta think about Mahomes being out the entire second quarter. That's huge. And he has an ankle sprain. He was in crutches, I think, after this game. So who knows what going into the conference championship is what's going to happen, right? So it's a 7 point game, but if nothing happens to Mahomes and he's able to play the second quarter with how good he is in the playoffs, again, who knows what would have happened? But what happened is he sprained his ankle. Now he's on crutches this week, so we'll see.
Yeah, and he wanted to continue playing, and Andy Reid said that he wasn't going to let him keep playing until he went and got X-rays,
Yeah.
and then he came out, and I think a lot of it was tentative. Like he came out starting in the third quarter, and he wasn't as accurate. He was missing some throws,
Yeah.
um, just some stuff that he normally doesn't miss. You could tell that the ankle was affecting his ability even to move around the pocket, and I was actually like, "Hey, you just kind of tested the waters with your backup," and he goes
Hmm.
on a 98-yard touchdown drive. Maybe keep him in the game so Mahomes is rested up for next week, assuming they were going to win. Because
Hmm.
you know Andy Reid was that's what the decision was. I mean, nobody likes to talk about it because it sounds really cocky, but he was thinking. Um, do I want Mahomes to be more healthy going into next week? And can I beat the Jags with my backup quarterback?
Yeah.
And I think the answer was yeah, but Mahomes wanted to play, and he was like, you know what? If nothing's broken and he says he can play, I'm going to let him play. So he did say after the game though, he said it feels better already, and the Chiefs don't.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, and the Chiefs don't have any like what do you call like TVs in the back.
Yeah.
So he was talking a little bit about that. It's because they want there's like a whole process, hot water therapy, cold water therapy, getting
Hmm.
massaged,
Hmm.
probably essential oils, machines. I don't know, but they take the like kind of the rehab post game care stuff really serious. They to the point where they're not allowed to watch TV because it can be a distraction. I was like, wow, that's pretty
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, so um, I've had a really bad ankle sprain before, and when it's really bad, it takes like 8 weeks to get better. I
Oof.
mean,
Jesus.
but his wasn't that bad because he wouldn't have been able to play with it.
Yeah.
High ankle sprains, which is what he had, is actually a better thing. I don't really know what that's like, but yeah, ankle sprains are one of those things that can just be detrimental. And unless you've ever had a real one, it
Hmm.
just seems like something you can just play through until you have one. And then you're like, oh man, he might be back for the playoffs. I have no
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be something to keep an eye on. Like you said, will
Mm.
we have 100% Mahomes? Our next game is not as close. There were actually people taking the Giants on this game. And
Yeah.
you looked at like DraftKings, I think it was minus 9. And basically what happens is they'll start with a big spread like that, and then they'll see where does the public put all their money, and then about 3 days later you'll see it go up or go down. So because they don't want to lose a bunch of money, so they're like, okay, everybody's going in on the Eagles. Let's make the spread 12 points instead of 9. Um,
Yep.
but you saw this number stay the same all week, which means the world was divided. You had half people saying, I like the Giants to keep it within, close game. And you had half the people going, look, the Eagles are going to blow the Giants out of the water. And I was on that team.
Mm-hmm.
I understood kind of the Minnesota Vikings were a middle of the pack team. And
Yeah.
I also understood that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and the home field. And that's what we got. We got an old fashioned like ass whooping from the Eagles. And I want to know, is this more about the Eagles being a dominant team? Because now going into San Francisco, the Eagles are going to be the favorite because we follow whatever happened last week so intensely. Like if you think about how the Giants even got to this point where we were taking them very serious, it's because they beat the Vikings. But now the Eagles just blew them out. So now going into next week, it's going to be like the Eagles are going to, probably beat the Niners by 7 to 10 points. But how much of what happened was the Eagles just being an extremely dominant team? They have 4 players on their D line with 10 plus sacks. They're the only team in the NFL that has every person on their D line with more than 10 sacks. They're the best pass defense in the NFL in passing yards per game given up. Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate. Great receivers. And Goodert looks like he's back to that form that he was in the beginning when we were putting him in the Travis Kelce kind of category. So I just look at this team and, Miles Sanders and I'm just like, man, and their O-line is nasty. Like they will punch you in the mouth. And I think they're going to be extremely hard to beat. And the Giants just seem like they were completely outmatched. Did the Giants have a bad game, or are the Eagles insanely good?
The Eagles are insanely good. It's point blank. The Eagles are so good. Everything you just said is 100% accurate. Their offensive line, studs. Their wide receivers, studs. Their quarterback, studs. Their defense as a whole, studs. This whole team is a 10 out of 10, man. And this is their first game they played in the playoffs, and they destroyed the Giants 38-7. I think I said that they would destroy them. I didn't think by 31 points. I did not think they would beat them by. I had 2 scores. I had maybe 10 to 14 points they'd beat them by. They beat them by 31 points. They held Kayvon Thibodeau in check all game. They kept Saquon in check all game. Daniel Jones got sacked, 5 times by this defense? 5 times. They only let up 227 total yards of offense in the playoffs, dude. And this is their first game. They got we go back to last year when it was Hurts' first playoff game in the wild card, and they got beat. But this is their first playoff game as the number 1 seed, and they absolutely proved why they were the number 1 seed. The Philadelphia Eagles, man, are no team to fuck with, and that's that Hurts only threw for 154 yards. He had 2 touchdown passes and a touchdown run. Like, those aren't stats that jump out of the page. That's not like what Burrow did or regular season stats where you're thinking of like Patrick Mahomes, like 350 yards, 3-4 touchdowns. This guy threw for 154 yards, 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown, and they outscored the Giants by 31 points. It's insane, man. I think you said it during the regular season when we were talking about MVP candidates and how Jalen Hurts is probably going to be the MVP. they won out there because he went out there and he led that team. He like led that team, right? If you throw any other quarterback, it'd be a tough go, I think, for the Eagles. But Jalen Hurts is like you talked about his like preseason or off-season workouts, his
Coach's
knowledge of the
son.
like his knowledge, his leadership skills. Like they were on display in this game. That's the reason killed the Giants. So I mean, this team is gonna be tough. And then Bart Scott added to his total touchdowns against the Giants. That's 10 total touchdowns against the Giants for Bart Scott.
I know. I thought about you when he scored.
Yeah, legit Giants killer. But they killed the Giants, man. The Giants. Daniel Jones 135 yards and interception. Saquon only had 61 yards. Matt Breida, who had like maybe like 40 yards or something like that rushing, had the only touchdown. And I mean, the Eagles move on to the conference championship in great fashion. They're just not to be fucked with.
Yeah, and I think for the Giants, they just have to build off of what they had this year. And I think even though it doesn't feel good to be embarrassed, I think you got to be proud of what they accomplished. I mean, they're relevant again. Like people will take them serious going into next year. People are going to take them in a whole new light compared to what we thought going into this year. I mean, the NFC East in general, 3 of the final 4 teams from one division. That's pretty cool. If it was your division, that would be, well, you wouldn't want the Packers there, but it's like cool to know that, okay, we play in a good division. And for the Eagles, do you think it's better to, I call them like a tune-up game almost, when you blow somebody out? Do you think it's better to have a hard-fought win in the divisional round, or just like beat the shit out of somebody going into the AFC Championship game? Because you could look at it both ways.
Yeah, you could you could look at it both ways. If I'm playing a team, like if I'm 6'5" and I'm the quarterback of the Eagles or whatever Jalen Hurts is, I want to blow these guys out because they're my division rival. Like I want to blow them out in the playoffs. In the playoffs, it's even sweeter, I think. Yeah, you can beat them twice in the regular season, but if they're a bad team, then it's like whatever. But if you blow them out in the only game that matters in the playoffs, I that's so much sweeter. I think man, it's almost boring almost at that point. But even as a fan, I would want that team to blow out the other team. If you're like, if this is my Bears versus the Packers and my Bears move on 38-7, dude, I'm ecstatic. And I think as the Bears, any play on the Bears, you're ecstatic too, and you're ready for the next game. Your confidence is at an all-time high too.
Yeah, definitely. I was just thinking more along the lines of like, hey, okay, because the Giants had kind of a big win against the Vikings, but that was kind of a close game. Yeah, I guess you always want to win, whether it's by a point. You can't really predict how much you're going to win by.
Yeah.
And imagine if the 49ers would have blown out the Cowboys. It would have been really hard to predict that. But I mean, what if the Cowboys would have beat the Eagles next week? So you don't really know what you're dealing with when you look at the matchups. All you can do is play the team that you're playing, and man, this is going to be set up. This is the game everyone wanted. Like, it was cool seeing the Giants, but we said it, I think it was like week 15. It was, and I know for a fact, I specifically said it in week 17. I was like, the Chiefs are going to play the winner of Bills Bengals, and the Giants will play the Niners, or the Eagles will play the Niners. So it wasn't like a crazy bold prediction, right? It's just, we kind of knew like, hey, the NFL's got like these tier 1 teams and then everybody else.
Yeah.
And the teams that are up there are really separating themselves from everyone else.
Oh yeah.
And that's what you're seeing. So a matchup where we thought we had maybe 2 teams that were in that tier, but then we had a team separate themselves inside of that tier with another team, and that was the Bengals Bills game. So when you look at the the Jags Chiefs game, it was a close game, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
only using this because it was the other AFC game. And then when you look at the Bengals Bills game, it's like the Bengals, like they beat the shit out of the Bills.
They
Like
did.
I don't think anybody could have predicted it. I will say all the pre-sales for the Chiefs Bills AFC Championship game, I think the Bengals took that personal.
Yeah.
Being the fifth favorite to make it to the Super Bowl out of the AFC after being in the Super Bowl, I think they took that personal.
Yep.
And the way they played the game, they were angry. Joe Mixon, the offensive line held up so well. And we talked about being worried about the O line missing 3 of 5. Dude, they looked amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They were running the ball, and they were getting 7, 8, 10 yards after contact. They
Yep.
were running through players. They were physical. They got Jamar Chase involved. I mean, the Bengals could do whatever they wanted. Almost every time they touched the ball, they got some type of points on the board. And then defensively, they played so good. And
Mm-hmm.
out of all the teams in the NFL, I think the Bengals are probably the least respected defensively because when the season started, they were not, a crazy good defense, but then they got better as the season went on. Where like the Bills were good from the get-go on defense. So we always knew, yeah, the Bills great defense.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bengals are actually third in the NFL in points allowed per game. It's 49ers, Bills, and Bengals,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of have an underrated defense, and that defense was just nasty. They were forcing turnovers. They were getting after the quarterback. The Bills couldn't do anything. They couldn't run the ball. Josh Allen couldn't use his legs. They had a kind of a QB spy thing with the linebacker, and his job was to contain Josh Allen. And I mean, it was just one of those days where you saw, I don't know if you saw, but Stephon Diggs fighting on the sideline. There was a
Yeah.
time where he threw him the ball in the first quarter and he was like going like this to say, like, throw the ball higher. And
Yeah.
then, like, the 2 series later, Josh Allen throws the ball and he's doing this to tell him to run his route more north and take
Mm-hmm.
a wider angle on it than
Oh,
cutting so hard. So you have this like back and forth, and then you have the screaming on the sideline when Josh Allen's looking at his tablet, and then you had him go and take all of his stuff and leave the facility before they even brought it. So it was just one of those days where I felt like the Bengals took the respect
mm-hmm.
that they deserved by force. This isn't. I still think there's going to be people that are like, the Bills lost this game. The Bengals didn't win it. Like the Bills beat themselves, and I'm like, no, 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 no. They were literally like more physical at the
Mm-hmm.
point of contact. Like I was so impressed, and you know how I felt about the Bengals. We got
Mm-hmm.
into a debate about it, and I still didn't expect that to happen. I did
Yeah.
not expect the Bengals to win like that. And I did pick them because I thought at the very end of the episode, I said, you know what though, like if I believe Joe Burrow is who I think he is, why would I not pick the Bengals? Because he took a worse offensive line to the Super Bowl last year. So for Joe
Yep.
Burrow, it's just kind of like business as normal when his offense got depleted. Um, and I can't even say they didn't play good. The offensive line is my like game ball. Everyone gets a game ball. They
Yeah.
played so good. There were huge holes for the running back. The pocket had protection. There was a couple times that they got through, but for the most part, they held their own. And this is lining up to be an amazing rematch of the AFC Championship game, and that's kind of cool because of
Yeah.
we brought so much drama into the game, and we were like, it's only happened once. Well,
Yeah.
the football gods heard us, and we're gonna get it again next week, and that should be a lot of fun. What's your takeaways from that game?
Real quick before I get into that, I like that you gave your game ball in this game to the O line. Just because I think it's going to be really cool to do. Let's give our game ball in the other two games. Chiefs, Jags. Who's your game ball going to?
Chiefs Jay. My game ball is gonna go to Chad Henne.
Damn it, that was mine. 2 game balls to Henne, 2 balls to Henne.
Oh, then Travis Kelce.
Okay, Travis Kelce did have 2 touchdowns. So Chad Henne and Travis Kelce get the game ball from Kyle and I. What about Eagles Giants?
Eagles Giants. I think you got to give it to the leader. You got to give it to Jalen Hurts.
Respect. I'm going to give this one to Bart Scott for scoring another touchdown
Nice.
on the Giants. So I'm going to give that one to Bart Scott. Kyle's giving it to Jalen Hurts. Now, Bengals Bills. Burrow and football. That's what Cincinnati does. Burrow and football. All right.
He's back.
He's back. Burrow is a winner, man. He proved it this game. And I'm going to get into my Bills monologue, outrage, whatever you want to call it here in a bit. But Burrow, man, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interception, played basically a perfect game. Mix in 105 yards and a touchdown, 172 yards rushing overall for this team. You mentioned the O-line, 3 out of 5 they were missing. They did whatever the fuck they wanted to that Bills defense. The defense for the Bengals, underrated all year, like you said, and somehow still a top 3 scoring defense, right? They were underrated all season. They came into this game and kept the Bills at 10 points. Great overall. Like, you couldn't play a more perfect game. Like, it would have only been like the most perfect game if they would have held the Bills to 0 points. Then that would have been like, holy shit, what are we dealing with here, right?
And there was a Jamar Chase touchdown that got reversed.
Yeah,
that was like a 50-50.
Yeah.
But the ref that called this game has hit the under on like 80% of his games because he's thrown the most flags of any ref in the NFL.
Really?
He's just he's a very like if it's a 50-50, there's not going to be a touchdown call, no matter who it is. Like, I don't know if there's something to that. I don't want to get conspiracy or anything, but when he calls, it's like low scoring.
Kyle does want to get conspiracy theories.
He's
not going to do it on this episode.
He's working for Vegas. The under hits every time he plays. It was like 98%.
I was going to say he's working for DraftKings. He's an inside man. All right. So that was the Bengals. Like I said, they played a near perfect game. Burrow is just so fucking cool under pressure. He was so good in this game. Mix in Jamar Chase, Higgins, Boyd, everyone played a very, very good game. And, all props, all praise to the Bengals for such a great game. Now the Bills. Oh boy, the Bills. And that's not even that I'm a fucking fan of the Bills, dude. They pissed me off. And you saw me in the comments. I was like, wow, the Bills just suck. The Bills just suck this game.
That comment rubbed me the wrong way.
So I could see why. I could see why, because you probably thought that I just meant like, wow, the Bills are losing this game. They're doing it to themselves, not the Bengals are winning this game. And that's not what I meant at all. I just meant that was a terrible showing of Bills football.
Yeah, it was awful.
What I tuned into while it was that I watched was missed tackle, driven back, first down by the Bengals, rushing all over them. The Bills couldn't tackle. They were getting their arms around guys and mix in and Jamar Chase, even Burrow was just shedding tackles, man. It was embarrassing. And when I say that, I think I speak for all Bills fans when I say that it was embarrassing. I loved the Bills coming into this year. When we started this show, all we could do was rave about the Bills and how they're supposed to go into the Super Bowl, this and that. Obviously things change as the season and postseason moves forward, but I was still on like Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, the defense, Von Miller, he got hurt. So, whatever. For a top 10 unit in the Bills defense for most of the regular season, they look like a fucking bottom 10 unit this game. And And again, I'm giving all the credit to the Bengals for winning this game, because you said earlier, you're like, there's still some people who said the Bills lost this game. And I'm like, that would usually be me if this was a closer game, but the Bills got dominated. And that's just as simple as that. No matter what the elements were, no matter what the conditions were in Buffalo, this was supposed to be in Buffalo's favor. They looked tired. They looked uninspired. They looked like they didn't even want to like play defense against this Bengals team. The Bengals, you said it earlier, they just out physicaled the Bills. And this was just embarrassing for the offense was no better. Allen threw for 265 yards, rushed for a score, the only score, by the way, in this game, threw an interception. The other than him, the rush game was a bust. Stephon Diggs, 35 yards. And like you said, the post game blow up with Allen. I didn't even realize that they were having these like little arguments or little whatever during the game. So that
whenever something's going wrong, he's like a total diva. But when things are going right, he's a great teammate.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
And that makes sense. All those little things that were happening in game as to what happened the last 2 minutes of the game or whatever it was when it happened. 35 yards, and he was targeted like 10 times, but I think had like 4 receptions, whatever. And then just Josh Allen, man, he could not get anything going. The Bengals had a spy on him, like you said, making sure that he wasn't going anywhere. The Bengals beat them. And I mean, they beat them in every sense of that word. Is they beat them. 3rd year in a row that the Bills just beat. I think the first game against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship was more of like a close game. Or I'm sorry, that was the second year, last year, when there was a close game in the divisional round. But this year, man, it's just like, wow, are the Bills even? Are the Bills even that good? Are the Bills? Remember when we were comparing the Bills, the Bengals, and the Chiefs to the Patriots, the Colts, and the Steelers?
Yeah.
I think that the Bills are starting to become a little bit more Coltish and not Steelerish.
Coltish.
Or I'm sorry, Steelerish, where they don't go where they
like
don't
burning sage in the basement of Coltish.
more Pittsburgh Steelerish, where it's like, oh yeah, they're good. They just kind of lose in the playoffs every once in a while, but they're there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. It's gearing up to be a very good AFC Conference Championship game, like probably one of the best that we'll ever see.
Yeah. So I think so too.
Yeah,
because
the Bengals are just good.
Yeah, I think so too, because you mentioned, and I rewatched everything you said, and I actually agree with everything. You're basically just saying like Mahomes has been doing it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
Burrow's like the new kid on the block, and you can't just go off of one, right?
Yeah.
So I do think it's kind of cool, because when you look at Mahomes' first year as a starter, he didn't go to the AFC Championship game.
Mm-hmm.
I think he got beat in the divisional round by Brady in overtime.
I think his first year that he started, he didn't even go to the playoffs. But I'll double check that as you talk.
Yeah, and then obviously we didn't really get a real first year from Joe Burrow, because he tore his ACL in the middle of the season. And then when he came back last year, he took his team to the Super Bowl by beating Mahomes in the AFC Championship game. So we were like, okay. And like you said, it happens once. It's I don't want to say a fluke, but it's not a trend. But now you got 2 full seasons of Burrow, and he's been in the AFC Championship game twice. And the Bills haven't even been to an AFC Championship game. I don't believe.
No.
Have they?
No. They did. They did in 2021. They lost to Kansas City.
2021.
Yeah.
That was the year before last year?
The year before last, yeah. So the 2020 season.
Oh, okay. They lost to Kansas City.
Yeah, because it happened in January.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, so now it's it seems like a trend that Joe Burrow is going to be in the AFC Championship game, and Patrick Mahomes is the other team that'll be in the AFC Championship game unless these two teams ever play in a divisional round. This
Mhm.
is almost this seems like the new normal. And I think if you look at the beginning of the season, they started 0-2, and the chances of making it to a conference championship game when you start 0-2 is 11%. So, but you can throw away that stuff with a guy like Joe Burrow. And
Yes.
now what this does is, because still Mahomes has done it for so long, but now you got this guy who's done it twice in his first 2 full seasons. And if he can beat Patrick Mahomes twice,
Mhm.
basically since Joe Burrow played a full season of football, the Chiefs haven't been able to get to the Super Bowl. Then it becomes like, oh, this is a great rivalry. Like, I think it would
Yep.
I don't want to say officially after. I think it's like going into this game, it's officially kind of like a rivalry. Like for Mahomes, this is a revenge game.
Mhm.
And for Joe Burrow, he wants to prove that, he's not, because everyone knows like Joe Burrow is, the neglected stepchild to Patrick Mahomes. Like the NFL loves Patrick Mahomes. Like
And
he's
Josh
the
Allen, really.
and Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And then Joe Burrow's just kind of like, hey, can I come on the fishing trip with you guys? And
Mhm.
I think I think he's gonna be playing with a lot of I think this is good for the Bengals. They've been playing kind of this underdog approach for the last year where um nobody counts them out, but nobody counts them in. It's like this weird middle where it's like, yeah, the Bengals until they beat the shit out of the Bills, and then people are like, okay, we'll take the Bengals serious now.
Yeah.
But I think it's almost better for this team to be on the road and be an underdog. They seem to thrive in that scenario. Where we saw them at home against the Ravens, they didn't look, as good.
Yeah.
But now, you know, I think that this is lining up to be some of the best football we've seen in a while with these two games and the rivalry officially kicking off. Did you find that set?
No, so I know he's 3-3 in the playoffs, and that was in the 2019 season. I just don't remember when he came into the NFL though.
I think he came in 2018.
2018. So here, I got his Wikipedia up. So it's gonna be, let's see. Yep, 2018. You're right. So he didn't make it his first year, but his second year he made it all the way to the AFC Championship. I'm sorry, the divisional championship or divisional game, and then the AFC Championship, and then the divisional last year, and now the divisional again this year.
Oh, so they were in the
Yeah.
AFC Championship game against the Patriots in Patrick Mahomes' first year.
Yes, I believe
Yeah,
so.
because they lost that game in overtime, and had the rules changed the way they are now,
Mhm.
Mahomes would have got a chance, even
No,
though
no, 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 no. They were in the AFC Championship against the Chiefs,
who was?
the Bills.
Oh, the Bills. I thought you were looking at Patrick Mahomes' first year.
Oh no, 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 no. I'm sorry. I was talking about Josh Allen because we were like, when did Josh Allen get in the league?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because we were
I
like,
did ask that too.
yeah, because we didn't know if his first year in the league was a playoff year, but no, it wasn't. So he was in the year 2018. 19, he made the divisional playoffs. 2020, he made the AFC championship, conference championship. Then again, the divisional last year, divisional this year again. But and you had mentioned how the Bengals didn't look good against the Ravens. This kind of goes back to what we were talking about the Giants and the Eagles. The Giants looked really good, or they were able to beat the Vikings, right? But then they get smoked by the Eagles. So how are we able to tell that? Because I remember using that game because that's all we had to go by in the playoffs, being like, dude, I don't think they really beat the Ravens. I think the defense won that. Joe Burrow didn't look very good. The offense didn't look very good. And then they come out and just smoke the Bills. You know what I mean? So it just kind of goes to show, like you said, you can't really take a lot of these things into consideration when we're talking about playoffs on a person, on a leader like a Jalen Hurts or a Burrow, right? Like you said, 0-2 to start the season, you have 11% chance to get into the conference championship. And look at, they're going into the conference championship.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, look, the it's the O-line that was the difference maker in this game.
Yeah.
And that's why they all get, because the O-line didn't play like that against the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he only had on average 2.5 seconds to throw the ball, and the longest pass was 19 yards in the entire game.
Yeah.
So it was just like a different type of game. But Bengals Ravens have always been kind of those grinder, 12-15.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's also a little bit of the head coach for the Ravens, John Harbaugh. I think he's
Yeah.
just a really great coach and had his team ready. And here's
Yeah.
the last thing to kind of pivot from the coaching thing. That's just me giving the Ravens a little bit of credit, but check this out. The final 8 coaches that were in was Andy Reid, offensive coach, right? Doug Peterson, offensive coach, offensive background. And then you had Sirianni, offensive
Sirianni.
guy, Dabble,
Mhm.
offensive guy. And then you have Zach Taylor, offensive guy. And then obviously Kyle Shanahan and Mike McCarthy are both offensive minded. So you had one defensive coach out of everybody as a head coach. And this is the way the NFL is trending. The best
Mhm.
teams have an offensive coach. And that was Sean McDermott
Yeah.
for the Bills. And you saw like a lot of what happened. I felt like they were outcoached. It
Mhm.
really looked like Zach Taylor went in there with such a great plan and it
Yes.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just looked at that and I was like, this defensive coach thing, like, what is it? Because the Bengals, when you look at the roster, why are they not in the Super Bowl? Like, what is it? Is this going to be the Cowboys now?
Mhm.
Where, I mean, they already have a track record of going to the Super Bowl 4 years in a row and losing every single one.
Mhm.
And now it's like, okay, this was the year that we were like, no, there's no way the Bills don't make it to the Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
then they don't just kind of lose. Like, they get
Blown out.
destroyed. Yeah, the Bengals literally posted on their Twitter after the game, like, make sure y'all get that refund.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they
Burrow said that. It's like, so because and real quick, I just want to get to this comment by Bill. By the way, Bill, cheers. Welcome to the
What's up,
stream.
Bill?
Said Joe is gonna have a chip on his shoulder and want some respect. You said it earlier too, man. The Bengals do not get respected enough. They're disrespected. They're underrated. And the fact that the NFL was already selling tickets to the neutral site in Atlanta for a Bills Chiefs game, again, you said it. It pissed them off and it put a chip on their shoulder and it made them want to come in this game and take it and take that division win and go into the conference championships with that like full head of steam,
Yeah.
going up against this Chiefs team.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a tough game, and I can't wait to break that down with you on Thursday.
Oh yeah.
Our final game was the Dallas Cowboys taking on
Brock Hard Purdy.
in the 49ers.
Oh, real quick, sorry. I was gonna
Yeah.
give my game ball in the Bengals game
game ball. Yeah,
to Zach Taylor. I was gonna give it to the head coach
that's a
because like
good
you
one.
said, he had a great plan. And that was just there. He deserved it. Every part of that win, he deserved.
Yeah, when you think snow game, you're like, oh, this is gonna help Buffalo.
Yeah, I know, right?
And then it's like, oh wow, what happened? So the Cowboys came in to Candlestick to play the Niners. It was a really good game. I thought that Cowboys defensively, it almost seems like the Cowboys came out and they were like, hey, let's play the 49ers style of football, but let's do it to them.
Yeah.
Let's be very aggressive. Let's stop the run. Like all the things that the 49ers are so good at, the Cowboys were able to do it too. And they weren't really able to run the ball effectively in the first half. Kyle Shanahan, even with the ball in his hands, it was third down and he let the clock go from like a minute all the way down to 30 seconds. And they're like, wow, you'd think Kyle Shanahan would try to go down and get a field goal. But he didn't want to risk not getting it on third down and then kicking it to Dallas with a minute left in their own timeouts to get some points before the half. So this whole game was a real chess match. It was very very thought out. It felt like Kyle Shanahan, he knew, hey, all we have to do is win, and he doesn't care how it happens because it didn't look like they were trying to play sexy football or get any style points. Like he
Mhm.
was like, "Yo, look, we could go out here and run some really cool stuff, but if I make Purdy drop back, what are the chances of a strip sack happening?" I felt like there's a lot of analytics in it. And Kyle Shanahan was like, look, I don't care how it looks to the public. I care about getting to the conference championship game. And they
Mhm.
stuck with the run. And you saw finally in one of the last drives in the third quarter, they went on a 90-yard drive. And finally, the running was starting to wear down the team. And then George Kittle, man, he had such incredible blocks that just as a
Yeah.
run blocker, uh, he changed the game so much. And actually, my kind of turning point in this game was something that you might not expect. There was the Cowboys that kicked a field goal, and
Yep.
they tied the game, and then they kicked the ball off to the Niners. The returner ran the ball all the way into Dallas territory and got out at the 45-yard line. But the Cowboys defense came out and did a 3 and out. So they weren't even able to get in field goal range, and they had
Mhm.
to punt it. And as the punter's running on the field, the announcer's like, so the great return by the 49ers, basically doesn't mean anything. They get no points. So they punt the ball to the Cowboys. They call a fair catch on the 8-yard line. So now you backed up the Cowboys into their own territory. The first play on this drive, they throw like a
Mhm.
55-yard pass to CD Lamb, and he
Mhm.
catches it. But they don't get any more yards on this drive, and then they
Mhm.
had to punt it. Had he not had that great return, the 49ers would have punted it from their 25. The Cowboys would have gotten the ball on the 35, 40-yard line, and that CD Lamb catch would have
Yep.
been in the red zone.
Yep.
And when you're watching a chess match, you can pick up on that kind of stuff. That stuff gets lost in explosive football games.
Mhm.
You're just like, you just don't think about it. But it was just one of those games where I felt like everything really mattered. And every decision that the 49ers made was like 3 steps ahead they were planning. And they stuck with the run game. They just played their style of football. And I thought the Cowboys played a really good game defensively, but at the end of the day, it seems like Dak Prescott might be the most overpaid average quarterback in the league. He just didn't throw the ball
Yeah.
in good spots. There was so many times where I was like, if he throws a good ball here, the Niners are screwed. And the Niners have the number one defense in points allowed, but they're the
Mhm.
22nd rank in passing yards allowed. So you can throw it on the Niners. They're just good at red zone defense and holding you to 3.
Mhm.
But there were so many plays I was like, even there was a seam route to Schultz or one of their players, and the linebacker. No, it was to CD Lamb,
Mhm.
and the Niners linebacker was on coverage. And they were like, great coverage. And I was like, yes, great coverage. But if he throws that ball a little higher and farther, like, he's coming down with that. And there was just even that big one to CD Lamb. If he doesn't throw a ball where he has to stop and wait for it and catches that in stride, that's a touchdown. So there
Yep.
was just so many plays where, and yeah, you can say like, what if this, but and then my last thing I'll say is at the very end of the game, they they do a 3 and out, and it takes like 45 seconds for the punter to get on the field and punt the ball. When you have 3 timeouts, your punter should be running out there. You should be
Mhm.
punting that ball as quick as you can so you can call 3 timeouts and get the ball back. And McCarthy just like Nathaniel Hackett. It was like Nathaniel Hackett. It was like, what did
I
they
real quick, I think they said in the broadcast, they're like, "This is a master class in wasting time."
did they really?
Yeah, I forget if I heard that or if I like heard it on a podcast I listened to later or something, but it was like, "This is a master class on wasting time."
That's perfectly put. I
Yeah.
mean, that was exactly how it felt. And, I always say there's like 2 things coaches can't do, and you can't have unnecessary roughness penalties, you can't fail at clock management, and you can't have false starts at home. It's like
Mhm.
these are like the bare minimums. And now we're in the playoffs, dude. Like, what are you doing? Like, how do you not already on third down in your head? You're like, look, if it's 3rd and 3 or less, and we're gonna go for it, and this is the play. And if it's 3rd and 4 or more, we're gonna punt it. So like, get the special teams coach and be like, hey, what are we doing? Like, why
Yeah.
is it when the game's on the line, you guys are staring at each other trying to make a decision? Like, dude, this is the playoffs. Like,
And that's facts, man. That's facts. Real quick before I get into my analysis of this game, my recap. Bill said Dak equals $40 million. Just think about that. You said that he's the most overpaid. Well, most overpaid quarterback. You said, right?
most overpaid average quarterback.
Most overpaid average quarterback, and it's so
Besides
true.
maybe Russell Wilson. We'll find out.
give him another season. We'll see.
Yeah.
Simply put, the Cowboys cowboyed, man. The Cowboys cowboyed. The Cowboys defense did a really, really good job.
Yeah, they did enough to win.
They did. They would have done enough to win had the offense been average, which it wasn't. And
But
that's
the Niners have a good defense too. You can't forget about that.
Correct. But then that's what I mean. Like it'll just be average. And you mentioned it. The Niners have the 22nd rated pass defense. Dak is a $40 million quarterback, and yet he couldn't take advantage of that. Kind of similar to what, and I didn't mention this when we were going over the Jags Chiefs game. Doug Peterson didn't blitz at all against Mahomes in the second half, which was kind of puzzling in a way, right? Because you knew he was hurt, you knew he was somewhat immobile. I just feel like he should have done that.
I'll say this to defend Doug a little bit. The Chiefs have 2 players on their O-line that had in the top 5 of all offensive players in the NFL, offensive linemen. They have 2 that are in the highest pass protection win rate. They have 2.
Okay.
So I think he was trying to like, hey, I think it's better that if we like allow our front to just get there and we play like a zone, kind of like get more bodies to cover the field, because
they won't be able to do much damage,
blitz,
right?
Yeah, if you blitz and they hold it, they're just gonna pick you.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are just like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because like you bring pressure, maybe it works. You go to man coverage and there's so much time that the receiver gets loose. You play zone and Andy Reid runs his zone buster. Like everything that you could possibly do, Andy Reid has a solution. But I totally get what you mean. Immobile quarterback. Why don't you, it's kind of, as much as I wanted to, like, I agree, but I was also like, isn't that kind of fucked up if like you got a quarterback out there?
And that was my thinking too. I'm like, man, that would be fucked up, but you're also trying to get to the AFC Championship game. You know what I mean? Like, why not?
Yeah.
But going back to the 49ers Cowboys, the Cowboys and Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy even should have been able to do that, should have been able to exploit that. If they realized, right, that we can possibly beat them through the pass, which by the way, CeeDee Lamb, 10 receptions, 117 yards. They did a pretty good amount to him, but I mean, it's gotta turn into touchdowns at that point, right? Dalton Schultz was the only Cowboy score in this game. And then Brett Maher, poor guy, got the extra point blocked after that touchdown, which is just like, what the fuck?
And Diggs too, dropping that interception. I mean, that would have changed the game.
Yeah,
too.
It would have.
This is like the Chiefs
really
game. This is like the Chiefs game.
There's little things that could have happened that would have altered the outcome. Absolutely. But Dak looked terrible. I think I said this during our predictions. I was like, between Purdy and Prescott, whoever is a better quarterback in this game will win the game. And that's exactly what happened. Dak sucked and Brock Purdy was average. He was better than Dak.
Yeah, he's got great footwork, and there was multiple times where you could see he went first progression, second progression, third progression, back to the first.
Yeah.
And you're just like, well, it doesn't look great all the time, but it was like, he's like really going through his progressions with pressure. He played good game. I mean, he's learning. You can tell he's learning on And this was the
Absolutely.
best defense he's ever played. Not just in, like, definitely never played anything like this in college or even in high school. And now he's in
Hmm.
the NFL. And so, yeah, I thought about that before kickoff. I was like, you know
Hmm.
what? This is something really to consider. Brock Purdy's never gone against a defense as good as the one he's about to go against. And I
Yep.
thought there's definitely room for improvement, but I thought he handled himself pretty well.
He did. And I still think like he didn't do anything crazy to win the game. I think,
The
you
pass to
know,
Kittle,
the
the
pass to Kittle was like Kittle, the concentration George Kittle had on that catch, it was ridiculous. And then you saw Trayvon Diggs coming in, and literally the last split
could
second,
have hit
Kittle
him.
brought it in. No, Kittle brought it in, and it could have been intercepted had he held it out.
Yeah.
Instead, once he caught it, secured it, he brought it into his chest, and that's when Trayvon Diggs just right in front of him,
With the
literally right in
Oh,
front of
I
him.
see. In the live stream, I was saying, I was like, dude, if you just hit Kittle right there, because he's already touched the ball, you're allowed to, hit him. I was like,
Yeah,
man, he's not catching the ball if you just hit him,
that's true.
and
That
that was
that
something.
too.
But Kyle Shanahan said after the game that that wasn't even one of the ball wasn't supposed to go there. That was just Purdy, like in the moment, being like, I thought that was, and actually right before that drive started, Debo
Mhm.
told Purdy, he's like, he went up to him, he's like, put us on your back. We're gonna jump in your backpack. We're all gonna jump in your backpack. He's like, take us down the field, and that was like the next play was that throw to Kittle, and that kind of felt like it was just one of those things where you can only hold them for so long.
Yeah.
Eventually, CMC is going to start running the ball, and
Yep.
eventually, it's going to open up other stuff. And that's what's crazy about this Niners offense is even when you play your best game, it's only a matter of time before
Mhm.
these guys get tired and
Yep.
CMC starts busting them loose.
And that's what I was gonna say. That play and that drive really was what turned the game around. And look, this was in the fourth quarter. The Cowboys defense had played very well up until then, but like you said, the defense can only play so well for so long before they're like, we're giving up a score, but it's on Dak and how he looked. Which, by the way, he looked like he looked in this game like he looked Week 18 against the Commanders,
A
like
bum.
garbage. Yeah, bum. Um, but the defense was the only good thing about this Cowboys team. Brock Purdy and George Kittle on that connection, George Kittle's concentration, bringing that ball in, and then CMC rushing it in for a touchdown was perfect. That right there won the game. And obviously, right, because even though they had a field goal afterwards, that was kind of like, all right, it's over at this point.
Yeah.
Um,
The
but
Kittle catch.
yeah, the Kittle catch and just a field goal after that too. Um,
Yeah, because they chewed up 8 minutes
yeah,
on that drive. So they had the pass that went to Kittle, which was 17 yards over the middle. And then from there, the Niners got three more first downs and chewed up 8 minutes of time, leaving only 3 minutes and 4 seconds with a 7-point lead. So
yeah,
that was kind of the turning point.
it really was. And what I will say too is Elijah Mitchell for this team was really good.
Yeah.
There was some runs where he broke tackles, got the first down when he needed to, and him and McCaffrey, they combined for only 86 yards, so they didn't break the century mark, sure, but like I said, the runs that they did have were like important first downs, important second downs to make it a makeable third down, right? Things like that. And McCaffrey obviously had the touchdown, and Kittle led with 95 yards as far as receiving. But I think the name of this game and the score says it all as well is it was all about the defenses, which defense could hold, which defense can make the most difference. At the end of the day, man, it was the 49ers defense that really made all the difference, because they were pretty evenly matched throughout the entire game as far as offense. I mean, the Niners had 312 yards total offense and Dallas had 282 yards. So I
Yeah.
mean that says a lot about the defenses and a lot about how much they affected this game. And are we giving out game balls yet or not yet?
Yeah, I was just gonna say one last thing
Go
because
ahead.
you think about red zone defense, and that's what the Niners, that's when they like really excel. And they're on the Vic Fangio tree. They run cover 6. That is
Hmm.
like the defensive coordinator, DeMarco Murray, I think his
Hmm.
name is, or DeMarco Mathis. I'm
Yeah.
Dem, De, damn it, I can't
Who,
Demathias.
who's
What
this
the
for? The defensive
defensive
court?
coordinator for San Francisco. Sorry, it's
Oh,
just bothering me.
D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryans, yeah, because the Broncos interviewed him for. He's a dark horse
He's
head
getting a
coach.
job soon. He's getting a job for sure.
But that's yeah, he's under the Vic Fangio tree as well, and that cover 6 works great in the red zone. That's why you got like the Broncos defense. Our defense coordinator learned from Vic Fangio, and it just works really well. But the Cowboys electing at the end of the half not to kick the field goal. They didn't
Hmm.
trust their kicker, and then they go for it. I think it was 4th and 7,
Hmm.
and they ended up getting the first down and continuing the drive, and then Dak threw a pick in the red zone. So they were about to, I mean, get a minimum of 3,
Yeah.
and they end up throwing that pick, and then the 49ers get a chance to go downfield and get a field goal to end the half. So right there, it's a 6-point swing, and you got the missed extra point. There's your 7 points that you lost by right there. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of things that were left to be desired for the Cowboys, and you'll think that I guarantee people will be like, okay, the 49ers, they played the Cowboys good, but next week they got the Eagles. Like, that's gonna be a tough. I'd make an argument that when the Cowboys are playing good offensively, they're one of the toughest offenses in the league.
Yeah.
Obviously, Tony Pollard left with a broken
He
leg.
did get injured. Yeah.
Yeah, he broke his tibia. That's a huge loss for the Cowboys. Who knows what
Yeah.
would have happened if he stays in the game?
Yep.
Um, but the Cowboys offense is no joke, and holding
Hmm.
them to 12 points is a huge deal. And if you're a 49ers fan, you got to be thinking like there's some hope that you'll be able to slow down the Eagles next week, because the Cowboys offense, like I said, it's not like they played the Giants offense. No offense, Bill, but the Cowboys offense, we've seen them put up a couple, 52 points in a game. So
Yep. So yeah, absolutely. And real quick, want to get to Bill's comment here. It's saying I'm on Team Purdy just to keep the story going. Well, that and I hate the Eagles, so that makes sense. And Purdy every day. Let's go. If you guys are watching, Kyle's
shout
got the
out
best.
Barstool Sports.
Yeah. Oh, is that a Barstool shirt?
Yeah, see the logo right here.
Oh, I see. I see it. I love it. I love it. Bill's like, I knew it would be coming eventually. My game ball for the 49ers Cowboys. And this is gonna be like nothing you expected, but I think it's got to go to CeeDee Lamb, man. For me, my game ball is going to CeeDee Lamb. He did everything he could: 10 receptions, 117 yards. This guy's a stud. The Cowboys did a great job in drafting CeeDee Lamb. This guy's ready at any point in time. He's not that I have seen recently, whatever. He doesn't seem to be a diva wide receiver yet. He's wearing 88 and he's in Dallas, so I feel like it's bound to happen. But he's not a diva wide receiver yet, and he continues to show why he's so good,
Yeah.
so good in the NFL. So my game ball is going to him in a losing effort. But go ahead.
Don't you have to win to get a game ball?
No, not in this
Not
not on
in
this podcast.
Okay, my game ball
Everyone
goes to
gets a
Trevor
trophy.
Lawrence. I'm gonna give
Everyone
one to
gets a
Josh
trophy
Allen.
here.
My game ball is gonna go to George Kittle.
Yes.
Yeah, George Kittle. He made great catches. But man, if you see the way he run blocks, and even there's even plays where like a tight end is supposed to go out, but his job is to like chip the edge
Yep.
rusher, and then he runs his route. And so you have basically 2 layers for Micah Parsons. You got the chip by George Kittle, and then he runs his route, so he shakes it off and keeps running the passer. And then you have the fullback,
Mhm.
use check, and then it's his job to hit Parsons. And then if he doesn't, get him, then Parsons gets a sack. So you have these layers
Mhm.
of protection. And there were so many times where you just saw Kittle like make a great block, or they ran a screen and his block was the reason that they were able to get 10 yards, or they run the ball and he sealed an edge. Like, it's like,
Mhm.
dude, Kittle is a very good run blocking tight end. And I've heard it before, but watching that game up closely like that, I never knew how much of an impact he has on the game. So
Yeah,
George Kittle.
and you mentioned earlier how physical the Bengals were against the Bills. George Kittle is like the epitome of physicality. That man does everything. He wants to hit, he wants to get hit. He just wants that contact, and he wants to make sure that you feel it as much as he does. You know what I mean? So,
He's having
yeah, good.
fun too. Do you
Yeah,
see him
and
look at the sky cam?
oh, dude, that dude is having fun every single moment. He reminds me of Gronk in a way, but he doesn't get as angry as Gronk used to playing football. At least not that I've seen. So he's a very fun player to watch. San Francisco is very lucky to have him as a tight end for how good he is.
Yeah. I thought you were reading that on a comment the way you said it. I was like,
What?
the 49ers are really lucky to have him. Do you know
Oh,
who also is lucky to have him?
uh,
Do you know who Claire Kittle is?
is that his wife?
Yeah. I just figured it out. Oh, they first crossed paths at the University of Iowa in 2012 when they were both freshmen.
Really?
Yeah, they said it wasn't exactly love at first sight. Kittle says, "I saw her and I was like, God damn, who is that?" George Kittle recalled. He was like, "Oh, that's Claire, actually one of my friends, and she's a total bitch." But George said he wanted to find out for himself, so he went up to her and commented on her bright pink mopped helmet. After that, the football players spent the next 8 months in the friend zone before the two began dating.
That's my friend. She's a bitch. Kittle's like, I love bitches.
Yeah, I didn't even know George Kittle was married. That's funny.
Yeah, that's actually kind of insane. I didn't think so either. Bill goes, and Kittle knows where the sky cam is at all times to make faces. That's true. That is
Yeah,
very
he's
true. He
just having a
does.
great time out there.
Oh, absolutely. He loves that he gets paid millions to play a game. So
And Purdy and him are like really close now, and they're
yeah.
making jokes like because he went to Iowa and he went to Iowa State, and they're like, I can't let him get too many touchdowns, because they got like the whole college rivalry thing.
Jesus. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Well,
Yeah,
that was our divisional NFL playoffs weekend recap. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed it. If your team is on to the conference championships, then awesome for you. And if not, get them next year, I guess. I don't know what the hell to say to you. The Bears are not. The Bears have been out for a while, so I don't care.
it gets
But
easier. It gets easier as time goes on.
it does. It gets easier as the draft gets closer, as the offseason gets closer, as preseason gets closer. It gets easier. um, But let's move on now. We have 4 teams remaining. So let's move on to
Top five, no debating. Top five, top five, top five.
top five. We'll move on to our top five AFC and NFC conference championship version, which is only 4 teams. But, I was telling Kyle earlier, Drake didn't make a song that said top 4, top 4, top 4. So we're going with top 5, top 5, top 5. Real quick, Bill goes, at least next week you can't give me any crap about my Giants. See you then. That's facts, but we still might. All right, let's go into the remaining conference championship teams, and let's go number 4 through number 1. Kyle, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Do you want to start, or you want me to start?
I guess I'll start so you don't think I'm copying you.
Okay, but you
Number
will be.
4, I got the Kansas City Chiefs. a lot of people have them being the favorite to win the Super Bowl, but there was an injury to Mahomes, so you gotta also keep that in mind. I talked about the defense of
Mm-hmm.
struggles that they've had. Some of the passing game ranked last. Um, I'm just I'm looking at the other teams that are remaining right now, and I'm seeing
Oh yeah.
more complete teams, and also Mahomes. I told you he's got one of the best lines for pass protection, but he's also the most hurried quarterback. So he throws a lot of passes, which means he holds the ball really long, which means he rolls out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like every play is like, hey, you're gonna run this route and then just find Mahomes and then run to where you think he wants you to be. It's all backyard football. And I'm just wondering if, with if his mobility is limited, how much of that is going to be able to happen. So, and they're going to be playing a good defense in
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati. So, for that, I got Kansas City at 4.
And Tyreek was so good at that with him with that backyard football style of play.
Yeah.
But Kadarius Toney was looking pretty good. He was looking pretty good. At number 4, I've also got the Chiefs, and it's kind of and real quick, let me get to Bill. Got to go clean up dinner. Catch you guys next show. # cheers. Cheers, Bill. Cheers. Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate you.
Good to see you, Bill.
I've also got the Chiefs for all the other reasons you mentioned as well. The Mahomes, obviously the biggest part of this Chiefs team that is like, if you have Mahomes on your team, it's almost like, yeah, we've got a very, very good chance to win. He's got the ankle sprain. Who knows how his mobility is going to be affected? His O-line is good, but how good can they be with him being hurt? Does this mean that the running game has to step it up? Do they run more 2-second type of plays? You know what I mean? Like it just affects the team as a whole, at least the offense. And while the defense, we mentioned it earlier, had a good game in the fourth quarter to get those 2 turnovers from the Jags, they still gave up like 350 yards to them, and that's rough to see from a Super Bowl favorite defense. So I've also got the Chiefs at 4. Moving into number 3, I have got the San Francisco 49ers. And this is mostly because Brock Purdy, it was a very average game for him. Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it in any sense. He was very average in this game. The George Kittle catch was more George Kittle than it was Brock Purdy, but you got to give Brock Purdy credit, rolling out to his left, throwing across his body, and still being able to put that ball in a place where George Kittle could catch it. The defense looked good for the 49ers. But the offense, they were playing a really good defense in the Dallas Cowboys, but the offense didn't look that awesome. It didn't look as awesome as it usually does, at least the last few weeks with the 49ers. And they're playing an Eagles defense that just smoked the Giants. Obviously, we're going to get into that in our Wednesday episode, so stay tuned for that. But I've got the 49ers at 3 for those reasons. Kyle?
I got the Bengals at 3. And
Wow.
in a perfect world, Rick, I would have the Niners be in the AFC just so we could get the Bengals playing the Eagles and the Niners playing the Chiefs for the perfect Super Bowl. But
Yeah.
I do think it's unfortunate, but I do think the 2 best remaining teams are in the same conference, which would be always the goal of getting to the best Super Bowl. But we'll get that game next week. So
Yep.
I do think the Bengals, as good as their defense has been with pressure, turnovers, and points per game, they're not that much better in the passing defense area.
Okay.
And I look at their offensive line struggles, and they had a great game, okay, but is it going to happen again? Are they going to be able to repeat the offensive line performance that they had? I do think that they can get the win, but as you know, the Chiefs below the Bengals, I don't think that necessarily is going to catapult them up to 1 or 2 for me. I do think that they're the best team in the AFC, and that's huge for them.
Yeah.
But they're gonna need to do, I would say, some kind of, I don't want to say blowout, but they're gonna need to win by at least 17. I feel like, for me to jump them to 1 or 2, just because of the sheer talent on some of these rosters are just like.
True.
But I agree about the Brock Purdy thing, because like Joe Burrow's a winner.
Mm-hmm.
And Brock Purdy's like, it's all
he's winning. There's a difference.
He's 8-0 as a starter.
Yeah.
He hasn't lost. The Niners are on a 12-game win streak, which makes them the hottest team in the NFL because they're on the longest win streak. But the Bengals, they're right behind with, I think, a 10-game win streak. So the Bengals are just like the record for wins in a row. I got the Bengals right behind my second team,
which is
the 49ers. So this is really hard for me because, going into the season, I was really high on the Eagles and I had them at 1 for a lot of the season. And I'm trying not to get too caught up in 1 week of football. But the Niners are kind of, look, it's hard to say somebody declines when they win in that playoff game, but they didn't do it in the regular fashion that they've been doing. They average 38 points in their last 3 games, and the Cowboys have a really good defense, but so do the Eagles. So, and then the Philadelphia Eagles just blew out the Giants, and I don't want to get too high on that either. So this is really hard for me. I would rather honestly do like 1A, 1B. I don't even really think that one of these 2 teams should be, ranked below 1 at this point. But I look at the Niners and the weapons that they have, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
And I'll think to myself,
just like, how are you gonna beat this team if Brock Purdy doesn't make an interception or something, or turn over the ball? Like, the fact that, you're right, he's not playing great, but he's going through progressions. He's comfortable in the pocket. He's rolling out. He made a couple big time throws when they needed him to make the most. He stood up and made those throws, and he's not making any mistakes. That's the difference in the game. Dak Prescott makes mistakes, and so far, Brock Purdy, he's perfect, and he may miss a couple throws but they can afford to do that. They can miss a couple throws. They can't have turnovers. And he almost made a huge mistake too. Before they kicked that field goal, there was like 8 seconds on the clock. And I thought they were going to send the field goal unit out, and they were trying to get like 3 more yards. So the quick out route and then get out of bounds. And Purdy looked to his progressions. He looked, and there was like 30 seconds left on the clock, and he still had the ball in his hand. And you see Kyle Shanahan freaking out, and then he throws it, and he's on the other side of the field. He could have threw it, and the clock would have went. He throws it all the way to the other side. So as the ball's in the air, it's like, they're like, the ball hits the ground at 1 second. And it's just like, oh my God. And so and then you see Kyle Shanahan with his play sheet over telling Purdy something, and they asked him in the post game, they're like, what did you say to him? And he's like, that's why I had the play sheet over. So
you wouldn't fucking see. Yeah.
And they were like, they literally were like, did you yell at him? That's what they said. And he's like, no, I never yell. And then he said, no, I just told them, like, what did we talk about? If it's not there, get rid of the ball. Like, don't try to make a play here. And so you have these moments where you see his youth. You see his that this is his first time, like simple things like that. That's why I have them at 2, because that's the quarterback right now.
Okay, I can respect that. So for me, my number 2 is the Bengals, man. I for all the things that I said against the Bills, they played perfect. Joe Burrow's a winner. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. That's kind of why I have them at number 2. I can see why. I feel like 49ers and Bengals can be interchangeable, kind of like we have them, at 2 and 3. But I think the Bengals are a little bit better. They showed that even against one of the top defenses in the NFL pretty much all season long, they're still able to come in and beat them by 2-3 scores. You know what I mean? Like in their own stadium, in their own elements, in the snow, against their fans. Like it was a beatdown by the Bengals. They did everything right, and they made the Bills look silly, and that's why I have them at number 2. And number 1, it's the Eagles, obviously.
Yeah.
Right? The Eagles, I think they've been our favorite in the NFC, maybe interchangeable with the 49ers towards the end of the season. Every once in a while, like week in, week out, it was like, no, the 49ers, now the Eagles. The Eagles just put an absolute whooping on the fucking Giants, and
they're a well-oiled machine.
They really are. And
they can beat you every way.
Yep, and they can't get beat. They just, it seems like they can't get beat, especially with the way they played against the Giants. Talked about their O-line, talked about their receivers, their defense. Jalen Hurts is their leader. Sirianni is doing an amazing job game planning against these teams. It just seems like the Eagles are on a one stop, and that's the Super Bowl, and that's where they're going, and that's what it seems like is going to happen.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is so good too. I think if Jalen Hurts was the quarterback for the Niners, I would probably pick the Niners. But
that'd be insane.
Yeah, but obviously the Brock Purdy story is a lot of fun, and I of course I've bought in literally. I'm like clearly as deep into the Brock Purdy mania as you can be, but I still think this is going to be a really tough game, and if they win this game, like. Man, I said it last week. I said, if they beat the Cowboys, there'll be no more like, can Purdy do it? Like, that would be the one win against that defense that they could be like, okay, like, we're not going to keep questioning Purdy. He's A-0 and he played the Cowboys. Like, but we still kind of are because of the way it happened.
Yeah.
Right. But they did. Well, there was something I wanted to put here. He's got 546 passing yards, which is second among playoff quarterbacks, and 109.9 QBR, which is third. And that is why I think this is actually going to be a really good matchup. But you look at the Eagles and this roster. This is one of those rosters that they're not going to be able to stick together. Like. They are too talented. They're going to go get $1 million deals in different places. But how cool would it be to see the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Kelsey brothers?
That would be a great storyline. You want to talk storylines for the Super Bowl? That's a great storyline right there.
Is it better than the Mr. Irrelevant making it to the Super Bowl?
That's a good question, man, because the Mr. Irrelevant, it just, that would supersede the Brady storyline that's been on for his last 22 seasons or whatever.
Sixth-round draft pick.
Sixth-round draft pick is one of the best quarterbacks in this generation of football. If Brock Purdy makes the Super Bowl, if Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl as the very last pick, like you can't, like Hollywood would kick you out, burn you alive for writing that script. They would kill you and take your head and all the things they say. But that would be an insane story.
Yeah. I have the Eagles at number 1 right now. I think the Niners, if they want to take that spot, they're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to beat the Eagles in Philly. We saw Brock Purdy during the regular season play in Seattle. And then they played in Las Vegas, but not a ton of experience on the road. And it's going to be playoffs, and it's going to be really, really loud. And I don't know if you saw the short I made. They asked Kyle Shanahan, what advice do you have to Brock Purdy playing, on the road in his first, conference championship match? And he said, it's just, I'm trying to use the exact words. He said, nothing changes. It's just going to be louder. That he said it's basically, don't treat it like it's anything different, because it's not. It's just louder.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens. This is, man, I really think this would be the Super Bowl in another world, but this is going to be an amazing game. Philly, though, they take the number 1 spot. They're second in
Yeah.
total defense, 30 in yards, 301 yards per game defensively, and they're third in total offense. And when you get to
Jesus.
this part of the season, that is kind of like what. Do you remember me saying like, "Oh, the Eagles won and they're 2"? That's what makes them a juggernaut. I
Yeah.
said that in the beginning because you had the Chiefs and it's like 1-26, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, the offense is, they're getting it done, but
Defense has to catch up.
yeah, the defense, and then you see a team where you're just like, wow, they can do that and they can do that, and
Yeah.
that's going to be hard because I think defensively you're going to have even a tougher matchup against the Eagles. I'd be interested to do a deep dive, and I probably will, about what kind of defense the Cowboys play and what kind of defense the Eagles play. Because whatever the Cowboys did, I think it works the best against the Niners defense.
Yep.
It's going to be hard to run the ball with that defensive front and stuff like that, but the Eagles they're going to take that number 1 spot just because of how high they are. But I almost feel like a hypocrite because since Brock Purdy took over, they averaged the most points per game. It's not the Eagles, but
It's
but they
insane.
played weak opponents. When you look at who the Niners played, they haven't played a lot of strong, talented teams. They played Seattle twice. They played Tampa, the Commanders, the Raiders. You just kind of go down the list and you're like, winnable. There's a reason none of these people are in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then you got to the Cowboys and you're like, okay, circle that one. This is going to be the real test. And then you saw 19-12 and you're like, do we park the brakes a little bit?
Did they fall down to earth? What happened?
Yeah.
No, I get you.
We'll see. And I think it would shock the world, though, if they go into Philly and Purdy has 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and
that would be insane. That would just add to the storyline. It really would. But that was our remaining. I don't know. That's probably the last time we'll rank teams this season, because I mean, once it gets to the Super Bowl, it's like, well, it's more like, who do you want to win at that point?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So thank you all for being with us while we do our
Top 5, no debating. Top 5.
There you go. So the top five will be retired until next season when we do it again.
I just got sad.
It's all right. That just means there's more top 5s coming soon. But let's move on to our final segment. Let's talk a little bit about something else other than playoff football. Let's talk about some head coaching vacancies and some possible candidates too. So the biggest one, and the one that affects Kyle, is the Denver Broncos head coaching vacancy. Obviously, they got rid of Nathaniel Hackett week 14?
Week 15.
15. Okay. I knew it was closer to the end of the season. They got rid of Nathaniel Hackett. It was a rough season for him. It kind of sucks because I really thought that they were going to give him the entire season and maybe next season to see if he could really do anything with Russ Wilson in that offense. Injuries happen, this and that, but now he's gone. So now we're looking for, or at least Kyle is definitely looking forward to who gets picked up. And Kyle, what's one of the big names circulating for the Denver Broncos head coaching job?
Sean Payton.
Yeah.
So Sean Payton, he visited with the Broncos last week on Tuesday, so about a week ago now. And a lot of people didn't know how it was going to go, especially people. I was a little discouraged about it because people that were close to Sean Payton, like Colin Cowherd, the reason they're close is because they both work for Fox. So Sean Payton comes on the herd like a couple times a week and talks football. He was saying, like, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but he was saying, like, Sean Payton cares about ownership. He cares about ownership and the quarterback. Those are like his big 2 wickets. Like, I need a quarterback I can win with, and I need a good owner. And Colin kept saying the Broncos have 5 owners, in their owner meeting. They don't really know who's running the show, and none of that was true. And I hated that he kept saying that, because I was like, no.
Yeah.
Greg Penner's taken over. So the day after Sean Payton met with the Broncos, Colin Cowherd comes on and he's like smiling, almost like he knows something, but he can't tell
Yeah.
us. And he's like,
Bastard.
there's a report out that Sean Payton was really impressed with the Broncos ownership. And he says, I can confirm that because I went and had dinner with him after the interview.
Oh, wow.
So he confirmed, he said he was really impressed with their ownership group. And then Russell Wilson, through legal channels, reached out to Sean Payton and apparently said, I would like you to fix me. Like, I know that, I didn't have my best season, but I still feel like I can play at a high level, but just basically, can you fix me? Like, and apparently that meant a lot to Sean Payton. And then the Broncos became the clear front runner to land Payton, but he still wanted to interview with Carolina. And then the owner of Carolina also owns a soccer team, and there was a death in one of the players. So the interview got pushed to I think like early this week. So the Broncos are going to have Sean Payton come back in for a second interview. Other teams that interviewed Sean Payton are the Texans and the Cardinals. The Cardinals just hired a new GM, so they're not really too sure about that one. And then Carolina, because Sean Payton would be traded in division, because the Saints and Panthers are in the same division, they might ask the Panthers to give up 2 first-round picks. So usually when you're getting a coach, this is kind of an unprecedented scenario here, but because they own the rights to Sean Payton, the compensation that comes with it is likely a first-round draft pick and maybe a third or something like that. So usually you don't have to do that with coaches. And the Broncos owner, he's willing to probably pay about $20 million a year, which a lot of people wouldn't like that around the league because it breaks the market.
Yeah. But it's also the Waltons, the guys who own fucking Walmart. They piss money.
Yeah, people say that, and I make this point though. I'm like, look, if you have $80 billion or you have $20 billion, what difference does $20 million a year make? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's easy to be like, oh, but they got 80 billion, but it's like at some point, like 20 million is chunk change. That's couch cushion money, like to these guys.
Absolutely. I think I think if you have $1 billion, 20 million a year should be like, it's fine.
Yeah. So we're waiting to see. Apparently, with the second interview, they're not going to have George Payton in the room, who is our GM, and it's like when your parents are having a conversation and you hear them whispering, you come in and then they're like, hey, go play with your toys.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So, they're going to ask Sean Payton, like, do you want us to keep George Payton or not?
Yeah.
And he may say one Payton is enough around here. And we're trying not to get our hopes up too high, but there are a lot of positive signs pointing. And you also think about Sean Payton, a big brand. The Broncos are the biggest team in the West besides the 49ers. And that was something Sean Payton said. So you look at, just staying relevant, being in the division with Patrick Mahomes. Some people think that would, make him not want to go there. But Sean Payton's a competitive person. He's going to want to be in that division, a lot of primetime football, where he could go to Carolina and get forgotten about. You know what I mean? Like, Carolina's not Denver. So a lot of positive things pointing. If it doesn't go through with our number one choice, Jim Harbaugh already said he's staying at Michigan. He said after they did a Zoom meeting with the Broncos, and then he said, if you're not going to basically offer me the job right now, I'm going back to Michigan. And they were like, we want to go through our process. And he was like, okay, I'm staying at Michigan. So if we wanted Jim maybe we had to offer, but we wanted to interview Sean Payton for obvious reasons. We interviewed our defensive coordinator, Jim Caldwell, the former Lions and Colts head coach. We interviewed him. Dan Quinn seems to be the favorite, though, if
Yeah.
Sean Payton doesn't get picked, because we interviewed Dan Quinn last year, and it was between Dan Quinn and Nathaniel Hackett. So I really wish the owners didn't use words like we're going to be massively aggressive after, because basically they set it up where it's like Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, or bust.
Yeah.
The expectations are like way up here, and we might end up, with Dan Quinn, which is fine. He brings stability. He's a great defensive coach, and we can probably get someone else, but DeMeco Ryans, the 49ers defensive coordinator, was another hot name, and David Shaw is one. I think this is a dark horse, but I think it's really likely because he's the former Stanford head coach, and Condoleezza Rice has ties with Stanford. The Walton
that's right.
Penner ownership group all went to college in Stanford, and Condoleezza Rice actually hired David Shaw to be the Stanford head coach. So there's just a lot of how rich people have their yacht club buddies and stuff. So I'm thinking maybe David Shaw, but I just want Sean Payton at this point. Let me ask you this: out of the Broncos, the Colts, the Cardinals, and the Panthers, and the Texans, what do you think the most attractive job is for Sean Payton?
So if you would have asked me this before the playoffs, I would have said Denver. But the thing that worries me about the Denver job, and this is the cons of the Denver job, right? Like you said it, you said it right. Like you got money there, you got Russ Wilson, you got a good offense, you've got a very good defense. The team as a whole seems to be intact, right? It seems to be like pretty set. The thing is, if you go to the Broncos, one, they just fired Nathaniel Hackett after 14 games. Two, you're in a super competitive division. Whether or not Derek Carr comes back to the Raiders, actually he's not coming back to the Raiders. The Raiders are still a somewhat decent team. You have the Chargers, who are a good team, and you have the Chiefs, who have won the division for who knows how many years in a row. Very competitive division. So those are the cons. And you said all the pros. Now, the reason I think, and we had a conversation about this 2-3 weeks ago or whatever, the reason I think the Panthers job is so, what's the word? Lucrative, whatever. Like, yeah, like you want that job is because the NFC South is like up for grabs. Tom Brady played like shit. The Panthers were 2 games away from making the playoffs and winning the division. The Saints are a team that doesn't seem to be anywhere near competing. And the who else is left in the NFC South? The Bucks, the Panthers, the Falcons, also another team rebuilding. If you can get into the Panthers job with a healthy DJ Moore, with I forgot the defensive guy's name, but they have a pretty good, healthy young team. They got some good running backs there. If you go in there with like a solid choice at quarterback, no, Kuechly's not in there anymore. He retired. I was like, what? Anyway,
he retired 7 years ago.
Yeah, I was like, he retired. I was like, is Kyle serious? If you go in there with a solid choice of quarterback, you might be the NFC South division winner next year. Those are the pros of that. The cons are it's a kind of a shitty team, really, when you look at it. Now, again, they played inspired for whatever the interim coach was for the Panthers. They were within 2 games, blah, blah, blah. But they're not a complete team. Can you compete? Sure, but they're not a very complete team yet. There's still a lot of pieces that are missing in order to make that a competitive Ron Rivera, Cam Newton type of team, right? But I think the pros outweigh the cons in that situation because you do have a good set of young talent in the Panthers. Now, again, the Denver Broncos, me personally, I take the Broncos job. I don't care how competitive the AFC West is. It's Denver. Denver's a fun fucking place to be. I've been there a couple times. It is fun. But the thing you got to think about as a head coach is, well, they just fired this guy. Do I really want to go into a situation where I have to play Russell Wilson because they extended him? And what have we said before that holds true throughout the NFL is a team would rather first get rid of a coach than the player that they paid 200 plus million in an extension to. We saw it in Arizona. It's happening. It happened in Denver too. So that to me as a coach would really be like off-putting.
There has been Sean Payton, obviously before he was a Broncos candidate. He's been like doing stuff on TV saying like what he would do to fix Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
So like he always like throughout the season he felt like he could fix him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he said, I think there's two ways to look at it. Like one way is like, gosh, I could get screwed with Russell Wilson. But the other way is like, hey, Russell Wilson didn't fall off a mountain, and I could go in there and make some minor adjustments and look like a quarterback guru.
Yep.
You know, and you see what he did with Drew Brees when he took over. So I do think he would be able to, at the very least, make Russell Wilson look better than he was this year, a lot better.
Sure.
And you bring up a lot of good points about that, but I think the owners sat down with him and they were like, look, Russell Wilson plays like garbage this year. Like he's out. You know, we'll eat the dead cap money. I don't want, and I think there's also teams that would trade for Russell Wilson, like teams that have nothing, like Atlanta or something. I feel like one of them would be like, hey, we'll take that contract. You know, it's because it's still like in that 1 year where it's like, was it a fluke? Because it's just nobody's ever fallen off a cliff that fast in 1 year, you know, ever. He was an MVP candidate, 2 years ago. Now all of a sudden he's the worst quarterback in the league. Like something just doesn't seem right there. So
I would make a argument for Baker Mayfield and Matthew Stafford this past year. You know what I mean? Like they look bad. They look bad this year. And again, those are the things to me. And like I said, if you had asked me before the playoffs, I would have been like, fuck yeah, Denver. Absolutely. Right. That's the place I want to go to. But when you look at like the future of things, the future landscape of certain divisions, of certain teams, of certain ownerships, Carolina as a head coach, and even as a Sean Payton, right? Like someone who's already won a Super Bowl and has proven that he can build a team from the ground up. That might be a really, really good place for him too, in his mind, and thinking as a coach, right? Of course, he might want to go in there and be like, I'm about to make the Panthers this great team and just be revered as one of the best coaches in the NFL. Why wouldn't you want a legacy like that, right? In Denver, why wouldn't you want to go in there and be like, what was viewed as a $220 million mistake last year is now looked at like Sean Payton revived his career and is now like competing for the AFC West division, going to the playoffs, this and that. Either way, I think if Sean Payton is able to do either of those things, he's looking good as a coach. And we haven't even touched like the Texans or the Colts or the Cardinals. I don't think. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say another guy to keep your eyes on that hasn't been talked about, but he will be, and if not this year, next year, is Mike Kafka. So Dabble actually lets Mike run the offense for the Giants. And he was the quarterback's coach for Patrick Mahomes from 2018 till 2021. And then he got the job being an offensive coordinator. And now you saw his ability to turn around Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So I think he's got maybe like 1 or 2 more years, but he's definitely going to be a hot candidate, I think, soon, just from being under Andy Reid all those years.
Yeah, and this 1 year with Dable and seeing what he did with Daniel Jones, like you said. And let's hit the comments here. We got Tyler in the chat. Tyler, what's up? Cheers. Hold on, let me get my cup.
Tyler?
Cheers. He's saying, and this is one of the jobs we haven't even talked about. If I was Sean Payton, I would like the Texans job because you would be able to coach an upcoming rookie quarterback and are able to build around him with good players.
There are a couple. Though. He said
Oh,
ownership matters.
ownership does matter. And I don't know what exactly is the Texans ownership or what their reputation is, but that's true. There are pros to that job as well. You have a good rookie in Dameon Pierce as a running back. You do get your selection at quarterback, right? Like either whether or not the Bears trade the first round pick. If you're the Texans at number 2, you're probably going to get a selection at a couple good quarterbacks.
Assuming Sean Payton actually likes any of these quarterbacks.
That's true too. But I think at that point, if you're the Texans, you can't go on with Davis Mills. I think you do have to 100% draft a quarterback. And let's say Sean Payton is there, and if he has to go with Stroud or Young or whoever it is that he wants, you can kind of build another sort of legacy as a coach from there on with the Texans, and that's the AFC South. Though the only thing that would deter me from going there is, again, the Jaguars. The Jaguars look really good, and you're going to have to start from scratch really with the Texans. So that might not be a lucrative job either. And then Tyler, once again, a lot of signs are pointing towards Nathaniel Hackett coming back to Green Bay as the offensive coordinator, which I'm sure Rodgers would love and would influence his decision in returning. Oh, I didn't know that was a possibility.
Adam Kaplan, an NFL insider, reported 7 hours ago that it's very likely he's going to take the Jets offensive coordinator position.
Oh, really?
So yeah, keep your eye on that one.
Oh,
Tyler.
okay. So I guess the question is, like, which is the least favorable coaching job you think? Is it the Colts? Is it the Texans? Is it the Cardinals?
I like the Colts job. I feel like they're really talented, but when I look at the Texans and their ownership group and these people that decided to trade, Deshaun Watson, that was before all that stuff happened.
Hopkins.
And then DeAndre Hopkins, like there's just, it seems like if you have bad owners, it's almost like you can't get anything done. It's like having a bad boss, So I think Sean Payton really cares about that. And I personally don't think he would go to a team like the Texans. And the Panthers is just tricky because it's in division. So I don't know if he would. We'll see. You say least attractive. I would say the Texans, because sure, you can get a quarterback. You could get Stroud, or you could get Alabama's quarterback Bryce Young, but I don't know if Sean Payton's sold on either of those guys, and I think it would be more likely that he would take one of those jobs and then just reel Tom Brady, or Jimmy Garoppolo, or Baker Mayfield, or somebody.
Ooh.
Because we're so quick to be like the draft, but he might be like, I can get CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, or I can get a guy that 4 years ago was the number 1 overall pick that has a higher ceiling maybe than he thinks Bryce Young has. Because Bryce Young, we've seen 5'10" quarterbacks get drafted, but when they do, usually they're 215 pounds of muscle. Bryce Young is skinny. Like I don't think Bryce Young is going to be able to stay healthy in the NFL. So that is something that would deter me from there. And then Ohio State, you got to be careful getting an Ohio State quarterback. Justin Fields might have broken the curse, but you still,
hopefully, God, I hope so.
You still got to, tread lightly with Ohio State.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, here's the thing I think is the worst job. And this isn't necessarily like 100% my opinion, but the Cardinals job.
Oh, the Cardinals job
literally made Cliff Kingsbury take a one-way ticket to Thailand and just
that's such a Cliff Kingsbury thing to do.
But I mean, fall off the face of the earth, because he's like, you know what I'm going to do? After my 3 years in Arizona, I'm going to go to Thailand. And I don't know when I'm coming back.
He's like, I'm going to eat so much pad thai.
Oh my God. Like, that's got to be, look, you have Kyler Murray there. You have DeAndre Hopkins. You no longer have JJ Watt, but the defense can still be very, very good. Right. But if a team made a coach do do that, you got to think like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So
Like at least
that may as
Nathaniel
well.
Hackett is, going to be a coach somewhere next year. He's
Yeah, that's what I'm
if he
saying.
was
At
in
least
Germany, we would be like, "Hey, man, what happened over there?"
that'd be funny. It's like Nathaniel Hackett turned into a monk. We don't know what happened, but the Denver
Aaron
job,
Rodgers is going to join him.
they're gonna do ayahuasca and
They're
just
going to
be
do
chilling.
ayahuasca and massage each other's heads.
Oh man. We got Tyler here saying, when I look at Bryce Young, he faces the best competition in all of college football. CJ Stroud is in a weak conference. Young is facing teams like Georgia, LSU, and Tennessee. And I guess with that logic, sure, that could work out. But I mean, we've seen quarterbacks from Alabama and the SEC come into the NFL and just fail. And it's not, all the time. And it's not necessarily about the conference, but it's funny because
the
Ohio
last Alabama quarterback to take his team to the playoffs, to be like Trevor Lawrence,
Hurts,
Jalen Hurts, and Tua. But what about before that?
Before that, yeah. I mean, who AJ McCarron was the quarterback? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
Mac Jones, maybe, but I mean, still, he's with the Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're so good. Like on offensive line at wide receiver. Like at one point they had Jerry Jeudy, they had Henry Ruggs, they had another dude. They had so much. It was like any quarterback is gonna. It's almost like your value's inflated when you're at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, the Big Ten next year is not going to be a joke. The Big Ten is going to be really, really tough next year. Wisconsin's going to be really good. They're using the portal. They got a really good head coach now. Ohio State's going to be Ohio State. Michigan's going to be good. I mean,
Big Ten's going to be good.
Yeah,
and they have been.
Going to be tough. Yeah, they have been.
2 of the 4 playoff teams were from the Big Ten. So I don't know. I don't like this disrespect of the Big Ten, Tyler.
People are so high in the SEC all the time.
Yeah, but I will agree with them. Like
they're faster.
I will agree with you and him. Like just Ohio State has just shown that their quarterbacks going into the NFL do not succeed. I'm hoping Justin Fields is the one exception, or at least breaks the case.
He is.
Yeah.
I'm knocking on wood for you. I want him to be good. Because I said we should have drafted him. So
that's true. I thought you were. I really thought you were.
No, we all right. Like we wanted Mr. Unlimited.
Unlimited. Oh my god.
Where do you get your inspiration, Rush? Unlimited.
What a fucking goofball. All right. Well, that was our last segment, head coaching vacancies. We will obviously talk about that more as we get into closer to the off season, after the Super Bowl, this and that. It should be a very fun conversation. Denver, obviously, being one of the locations that's looking for a head coach. That's going to be really fun. I'm assuming for you. Hopefully, you guys get the best guy you can, and hopefully that's that Sean Payton.
You'll hear about it right away. There'll be a breaking news pod if that happens.
Kyle will be on his toilet giving you a quick short like he did about the Tyreek Hill news.
Tyreek Hill. Hold on.
Oh my god, that's hot. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this episode of Only Football. You can follow us on Twitter at _star6 media. And you can follow me on Twitter at @andnowrick. It's getting about basketball season, but I'm still going to be tweeting about the conference championships and the Super Bowl. So, catch me there. Kyle, where can they catch you on Twitter?
You can find me at STBLONLYPODCAST. Only football only podcast.
I love it. Love that he fucked up too. But other than that, you can follow us at Star6 Media on all the other social, on all our other socials, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, and Facebook. So go ahead, like, subscribe, share all our stuff, share this video, going to be going up on YouTube soon. But go check us out. Go check out our content that we're putting out. And like I said, share us and like us if you guys are liking the content. And you can also listen to Only Football on all podcast platforms as well. So make sure to subscribe, hit that little bell to get the notifications of when we do go live and when our podcast episodes do drop. Also, go watch and listen to all our other shows. EAFP, Talking Soccer, Only Foot. Oh, wait, we're Only Football. JCA Sports, 3 Up, 3 Down for your baseball needs, Sports Strip Live, and Slot Shot NHL podcast. And just a quick announcement too from my end. Big League Chicago is going on a bit of a hiatus, so you will get all your, if you guys listen to this podcast and you also listen to Big League Chicago, just want to give you a heads up that it will be going on a slight hiatus for a period of time, just to kind of just as we work towards making Only Football better and Star 6 Media as a whole better. But there's still a lot of shows, a lot of good stuff coming your way. So just want to give you guys a heads up. I will be working full time for Only Football and Star 6 Media. So you're going to get a lot more content from us. And, we have a lot of content during the season and the playoffs, but once the off season comes, don't worry. We've got a lot of stuff ready for you guys during the off season, right, Kyle?
It's going to be awesome. Yep. We got the trivia. We got the group watch of we're going to put a random year in a hat to watch a 1982 Super Bowl, whatever years.
That's going to be cool.
Learn some football, and then we got to keep track of everything going on, because if there's ever been an off season that's going to have a lot of movement, there's going to be a lot of quarterbacks changing locations, IP addresses, and also Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. There's going to be, how it is.
The saga continues.
It's about to get real. Rodgers is probably going to be in South America for a month, and then he'll come back, puked out his desires, and ready to make a decision.
We're going to interview him while he's on ayahuasca, so that should be fun. Stay tuned for that, hopefully.
That would be insane. I would feel like contact high, probably. I'd be like,
I know, right? That'd be so much fun. But all right, everybody. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and a big shout out to Bill and Tyler for joining us on this episode in the comments. Appreciate you guys and everyone else who's tuned in or is listening to this podcast show right now. Kyle, got anything else before we get out of here?
That's all I got. We'll do our next episode talking about the conference championship matchups. Can't wait to see you guys.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya.